Hey everybody, and welcome to this season's first edition of the Roy's Boys blog podcast. Kind of started doing this last year, stuff got in the way, we're firing it back up. I'm your host, Josh Marlow, by the way. If you know me, I'm on Anthony Pagnotta's Heel Tough Blog podcast, and it's no surprise that he is going to be my co-host as we go through this season for North Carolina basketball. I'm going to welcome him in, buddy. How's it going?
We're just blowing people's minds, man. It's like Roy starting a big man over a true freshman.
Yeah, which is something we will talk about. What a great tease later in the show.
There we go. This is what I do. I bring a sophisticated level of knowledge for the broadcast.
We need that because I'm an idiot. So we're going to start this podcast recapping the season opening win over Wofford. Carolina managed a 78-67, more of a workmanlike, veteran-type win on the road at Jerry Richardson Indoor Stadium. I want to get your thoughts on Tuesday night's win.
Well, first of all, I don't know if you know this, but they beat us in the Smith Center last year. Fletcher McGee, also pretty good player, apparently. But we didn't see that all that much. 7 of 23 shooting. Not a great night for him. I thought it was a fantastic defensive performance. Really liked what I saw from Kenny Williams, although didn't score, so I think that's going to concern a lot of people. Really shouldn't. They still pulled out a win, won by 11 points, and really it wasn't comfortable until the end, but really it never felt like – there were a couple of times in the second half where it was like, whoa. But then, most of the time you felt they were in control. I thought, both of the positions that we had some question marks at, both the center position and the point guard position, really had solid nights. Of course, Garrison Brooks with a career performance, 20 points. How many rebounds did he have?
He finished with 5.
5. Okay, solid, not great. And, that was one of the other things I think that a lot of people were kind of concerned about early in the game. They thought we were really being out-rebounded on the offensive glass. Well, yeah, early in the game we were, but they really adjusted and I thought took over. So, overall, I don't think it was our best performance. I don't think that it needed to be our best performance. But at the same time, first game of the year, anybody that expected it would be the best performance, I don't really know what to tell you. First game of the year, always going to be things that you're going to have to iron out. The only time that you've played against other teams has been one scrimmage against Mount Olive, who is a Division II school, and then a private scrimmage against Villanova in which you played for 65 minutes, I think it was? And that's straight, right? Did they even take a halftime break or anything like that?
I believe they did not because they were having such a good time and the game was flowing. They had timeouts, but there wasn't like a 15-minute let's all regroup, go to the drawing board type thing.
So it's different than going through an entire game, having to go through an entire game day where you go and do, eat the pregame meal, go through all your warm-ups and everything. It's a lot different when you actually get in there on game day, especially for those freshmen. So I don't think I didn't have any problem with it. I thought overall good win against a team that more than likely is the favorite in most people's minds in the SoCon. I didn't really have a problem with it.
Yeah, leading up to the game, and I told you, I got really nervous before the game because I saw the place was fired up.
You compared it to a tournament game. Let me just say that for the folks at the house.
Yeah, I was nervous. But I thought we played we could have played much better, but with a team that has a new point guard, that has a new big man that's supposed to be a constant in the starting lineup, they played very well. Kenny Williams' defense was sensational. I thought Cam Johnson made timely shots.
Yep.
And Luke May, who had 24, wasn't even the story of the game because it was just a quiet Luke May because we got so accustomed last year to him doing that. It wasn't to talk about. But he was 8 of 9 from the foul line, a guy who's a 62% career foul shooter who needs that improvement, at least is showing that. I thought Kobe looked like a freshman, but that's okay. Nassir and Leaky Black off the bench looked like freshmen, but they also showed all their talents. Um, and some other things, the turnovers, we turned the ball over, I think it was 15 times, which normally isn't a bad number, but in this game, because Wofford wanted to slow it, it totaled up to 21% of our possessions, which is a little too high for Roy Williams liking and, of course, the fans. But overall, I looked at it as most teams aren't going to go on the road and play a team in their environment to start the season. And Carolina was willing to do that and got a pretty good win. So you got anything else to add from the win over Wofford?
Did you know that we played Wofford last year in the Smith Center and they beat us? I don't know if ESPN can hammer that home more often. I mean, I don't know who they love more, Wofford or Duke. I'm still trying to figure that out at this moment. If Wofford and Duke played a game together in the Schar Center, which is where Elon plays their home games, ESPN might just have to shut down. They'll do a live Sports Center from the Schar Center for the greatest matchup ever.
And you'll have the Zion Williamson warm-up cam, and maybe just him in the locker room while he's putting on his shoes.
Dude, him and Fletcher McGee will literally just stand out on the court and just one will dunk, and the other one will shoot threes the whole time. And that'll be the whole broadcast. And it'll just be whichever crew they decide, combination of the groups, just in there freaking out.
Right. Okay, so we're going to transition from the Wofford win and go to last night's win at Elon. Carolina, of course, on the road, back-to-back games for the first time in over 30 years. This time helping open the new Schar Center for all of us who does not know that.
What was that again? Do you know where it's located in, by the way?
It's in Burlington. I have an aunt that lives there.
What a shock. They only told us that like 7 times last night as well.
Yeah, and in this game, Elon not as good as Wofford, although they were experienced. And Carolina steamrolled themselves to a 116-67 win. I thought in the first half, our defense was poor. We didn't guard back. We got beat on the same play 3 straight possessions, forcing Roy Williams to go to half-court traps against Elon to disrupt their rhythm on offense. I thought we were on the boards early and often, which with our size, that's what we expected. What I took away from this game, other than the fact that Nassir Little broke out with 21 points, Cam Johnson had 21 and was phenomenal. Roy Williams said in his postgame that we were more gifted, more blessed, and more talented. So that tells me we didn't play good enough, because when he goes to that line, he wasn't happy with our performance. And you look at the stats, we shot the ball exceptionally well from the field. Let me look at it. 52% overall. So the offense was there. Defensively, we gave up over 60% shooting in the first half.
Right.
They finished with 36%. They actually shot in the second half the lowest percentage in a half by any Roy Williams North Carolina team. So they answered the challenge in the second half, only giving up 22 points. And I think that's good for this team, that they're willing to be coached, and when they get coached hard, they listen. Luke May had an off night from the field, but got 10 rebounds. Sterling Manley picked up for the lack of production from the 2 starting big man with 11 and 8 off the bench. Kenny Williams again didn't make a jumper, only was 1 of 3 from the foul line, but defended at a high level. So through the 2 games, it's been their most complete performance, but still some stuff to clean up. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you were right. In the first half, there was a little bit of concern with how well they were allowing Elon to move the ball around offensively. I thought they gave Elon a ton of high percentage looks early in the game. Those disappeared in the second half, which was exactly what you want to see. And yeah, no, you mentioned it with they beat us with the same play on 3 straight plays. One of the things that we've seen really in the last few years is that they do have trouble with some of the switches and everything like that. That seemed to be giving them a little bit of trouble, but I like how they adjusted. Nassir Little, I thought, looked great. I think that's exactly what you're hoping that he's going to bring to the table every night, whether he's coming off the bench or starting, whichever it is. And then Cam Johnson just continues to shoot the 3 ball well. I mean, remember a couple of years ago where we were really struggling to shoot the ball from three. I am so glad those days are over, thanks in large part to Cam Johnson, who is hitting just about everything he's looking at. I asked you earlier, mostly joking, well, he's only missed like 2 threes all year, right? And you were like, oh, he's only missed 3.
Yeah.
He's shooting unbelievably from the field. And that's exactly what you want to see from this team. 116 points. This is the most points that they've scored. I don't remember since when, but I know it's been a while.
It's 2008 when we won at UNC Asheville, and
right.
In an ironic situation, we opened up Asheville's new gym at the time. So, you want some irony, and that's the most we've ever scored under Roy Williams since he came back to Chapel Hill.
How about that?
The thing with Cam, I think, when he first committed to transferring to us, and I went and looked at some of his highlights, I thought he was going to do a very good job helping spread the floor, spread the defense to get easier threes, and hopefully open up the lanes for our point guards to get to the rim.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't healthy last year. Now he's healthy.
Right.
And you're looking at a guy who's been through 4 years in the ECC. He understands the league, understands the game. He hasn't taken, in my opinion, a bad shot all year long. And, I know it's only 2 games, but sometimes kids are going to take dumb shots. He took a pull-up last night when he got a rebound, dribbled down, and pulled up. And normally, in my opinion, that's a bad shot if our rebounders aren't set down low in the post. I would never. He hadn't missed yet, so you've earned the right to take the shot. But I think his health is a big part of his success, and I think we're going to need him as this season progresses to be our second option to Luke May.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point, and he's so far. I wouldn't say that he's doing a bad job of that at all. He's so far been our most consistent scorer. Luke really didn't have a great game last night. But, that's the thing. You need guys to step up to have performances like that where when Luke May does have an off night, there's someone there to help him. I felt like at times that was there last year. There were other times that really wasn't. So this is a little encouraging so far. And, one of the other things that I took away from last night, really 2 true freshmen played extremely well. We mentioned Nassir Little, but I also wanted to point out the fact that not only did he score 21 points, he also had 7 rebounds. So he was making his effect felt on the glass. And then Kobe White, man, 14 points. This kid looks legit. I don't know about you, but he had some moments where he looked like he might have been playing a little too fast against Wofford, trying to speed things up just a little bit too much to get down the floor. And, I think he was able to settle himself down in the game against Elon and really made some great plays. So, yeah, I have to hand it to both of those freshmen who I think are playing well. Kobe White starting, and right now I don't think that's a bad decision.
Yeah, when I talk about Kobe White, my affection for Carolina point guards. Since I've been a fan, I've had Ty Lawson, who I loved.
I think you have more of an affection for Carolina point guards than for women, which is creepy. It's up there.
Yeah, it's especially when they're as good as these point guards have been. Ty Lawson won a national championship. Kendall Marshall probably ran the offense better than anyone ever has. Marcus Page, I fell in love with him when the program wasn't good.
Right.
With stuff off the court. Then I had Joel Berry, who won my heart over in a Final Four. I look at Kobe White, and I've told you this, and I've tweeted this out. He gets the ball up the floor as quick as anyone we've had since Ty Lawson. That's a big part in why he's starting, because Seventh Woods just isn't as good as getting the ball up the floor. And on our offense, and for me as a fan, I want to see this team run. Get up and down the floor and let's get points. He has no problem getting the ball up the floor. He also has no problem getting to the basket. He had a problem against Wofford getting to the basket and being smart with his passing and his shots. He limited the dumb mistakes last night against Elon. And I just think he has, for a point guard, he has no problem getting his own shot. We've never really had that except since Marcus Page. Joel Berry needed some screens and stuff like that. Kendall Marshall didn't have a jump shot. And Ty Lawson was just so aggressive and so good at finishing at the rim. Why stand out and shoot threes? Although the year he won the national title, he was over 40% from there. So, yeah, I'm very I was very pleased with their efforts. I've also joined the Adam Lucas leaky train. He had 8 points last night off the bench. As a little guy who everyone says he's Theo Pinson.
Right.
For being honest, he's more talented than Theo. He's actually going to be probably a true point guard who could run the offense. And he could also get his own shot. So these freshmen last night, I think, showed their true ability and their in limited spots that we should see more coming as the season progresses.
So I think it's safe to say that this podcast takes a stance that we like the freshmen. We like the freshmen. We like that's what we're trying to hammer home. But one of the things I noticed, and you're clear. I mean, I'm seen as a football guy. You're
right.
seen as a basketball guy. What do you think of Sterling Manley so far? Because so far, from my perspective, I think he's been a little bit underwhelming so far this year.
Well, if we go back to last year when we were trying to find that big man to pair with Luke May, I was of the mindset Sterling Manley was the guy because he has a more complete offensive game and is a walking rebounding machine because he's so tall and lanky. I kind of thought of him as a bigger John Henson, as a guy who was just tall and lanky that could shoot over the top of defenders and grab every other rebound. Tuesday night at Wofford, I thought he was just soft, wasn't ready for the contact inside. Because they had a big man, Cameron Jackson, who, if we're being honest, could probably play for a lot of schools in the ACC.
Yeah, he's pretty good, man.
And I don't know if it was just first game or whatever, or maybe just had a bad night. Last night, he still had some problems finishing inside the painted area, leaving some stuff short. Good thing is that's correctable. 11 and 8 off the bench, that's a pretty big boost, especially when Luke only gives you 8 and Garrison only scores 7. So, and also, if he's going to rebound the ball at that high of a rate, Roy Williams is going to love that. I love rebounding. It's going to help this team win a lot of games. So, I think he'll get better as the season goes along. He did pass his conditioning test this past offseason, which gave him the right to actually start if he earned the right to. So, I think as the season goes along, he'll get much better. Is there anything else you want to add over the win from Elon?
How about every single player getting on the score sheet?
That was impressive.
My Blue Squad member of the year this year, as you guys probably have figured out just from watching my Twitter on during Carolina basketball season, I picked one Blue Squad member that I really love. Aaron Rollman was my guy the last 2 years because, literally, I've never seen more trust in shooting ever.
The ultimate hype man when someone was pulling up from 3.
Dude, he could literally pull up there could be someone pulling up from outside the arena, and he would be like, yeah, it's going in.
I mean, I thought he was better than Monmouth's whole bench that one year when their bench got a lot of, notice from ESPN. I thought Aaron Rollman was better than that whole bench by himself.
It's true. It is true. And then, of course, we had Stillman White, who we just hyped up for years.
The Stormin' Mormon.
Who doesn't love the Storm, right? Best nickname ever. And then when he put on the fedora cap that Shea Rush made for him, man, looked like Desperado out there. Oh, man, that got me fired up. Connor Ellis is my guy just from late night, man. That dude fired me up with how well he played. He gets on the score sheet. How about this? The lowest scoring member of the team last night out of all the players that played was Kenny Williams.
Yeah.
Kenny Williams.
He didn't get a field goal.
He had 1 point. Oh, and Shea Rush had 1 point. Excuse me. Shea did as well. Yes.
Yeah, everyone getting involved was, I think, more of a testament to maybe how bad Elon was. But it's good to see those guys. Baby Jet got his first points as a Tar Heel.
Right. Oh, yeah. He had 5.
I think for me, and I hate that he's on the blue squad. I'm a big Andrew Playtech guy because he's a scrappy guy, can shoot the 3. He's also, like, if you notice him on the bench, he's kind of the guy whenever someone's pulling up from 3, he kind of stands up and throws up the 3-pointer, waves his towel. He's very energetic on the bench. Because he didn't play at Wofford, and it kind of hurt my feelings. But he got some minutes last night.
He did. But remember, he had the foul trouble. That's why they had to pull him out. Because he got in and committed the 2 fouls really quickly. So I think that
was that quick?
Kind of why they pulled him out. Yeah. Yeah, he had the 2 fouls that quickly, man.
So, yeah, the balance last night from top to bottom. That might be the only time all year every player that dresses scores. Of course, there'll be some other nights where the blue squad gets their points, but I'd be willing to bet the whole team will not score in the game the rest of the season. So
right. Shout out to Walker Miller recovering from an injury too. Wish he could have been out there to score some points for us last night too.
Yeah. I think he could actually be a serviceable big man, like a Jackson Simmons kind of role as we move forward in his career.
That's a good dude. I think everybody loved them some Jackson Simmons that year, man. Oh yeah, for sure. So yeah, I think I'm good. I'm good with the wrap up.
All right. Before we preview the Stanford game, which is on Monday night at Carolina's home opener.
Mm-hmm.
I know when your football topics or in your football pods, we kind of want to have a debate topic or just something that we discuss openly other than the games. So I think this comes to no surprise. There's a lot of discussion from fans.
Oh, which way are you going here? Because I feel like you may have changed this on me on the fly.
National media, that Nassir Little not starting is a problem in Chapel Hill.
Yeah.
I want to know where you're going with that. Do you agree with him coming off the bench? Do you think he should start over Garrison Brooks? Maybe we bench him for Kenny Williams because he hasn't made a jump shot in 2 games. I want to know your stance on Nassir Little through 2 games. Has he done enough to start the home opener against Stanford?
I would say matchup-wise with Stanford, it would make a lot of sense. And with the way that he's playing, yes. But I understand the way that Roy likes his starters to be set. And my thing that I think a lot of people have to realize is that just because a guy starts a game doesn't mean that he is seen to have a bigger role on the team. You could start a guy, if you really wanted to be that person, you could start a guy, keep him in there until the first whistle, and pull him out. A la most senior nights with a lot of guys. I mean, remember the senior night where we started Luke Davis. Luke Davis wasn't staying in the whole game.
Right.
Starter does not automatically mean, okay, you've got to play a certain amount of minutes. So, I know that's the way Roy likes to get it set up. But the thing with Stanford is, remember, they lost Reed Travis, who's now apparently the greatest thing that's ever happened to the University of Kentucky, ever.
And Jeff Goodman's Twitter.
Oh, my gosh. I mean, that dude is literally one of the most overhyped players I think I've ever seen. I think he's good. I don't think he's that good. But, he was there when we played them last year. He's not going to be there this year. So I feel like they're probably going to be a little bit weaker inside. I'll put it this way, if they started Nassir Little against Stanford, I would understand why they would be starting him. Because he's been playing that well. The thing is, though, is then you have to decide which player you take out of the lineup. Because in the preseason, it seemed like a lot of people understood that, look, Roy wants to go with a big man. So their solution was, we don't start Cameron Johnson. If you don't start Cameron Johnson right now, I'm going to be honest, I'd probably slap someone. I don't know who it would be. Probably be you. But I would slap someone because that would be the dumbest move that you can make at this point. That's why that won't happen, because this is Roy Williams. There's a reason that he's as good of a coach as he is. So when I look at it, I say, if they're going to start him, Garrison Brooks is going to come out and they're going to go with the small lineup again. The only concern is if you bring Garrison Brooks off the bench, will he be as effective as he has been so far this year? You kind of wonder if him being a starter has allowed him to elevate his play. Maybe it's given him some sort of confidence about himself, because he's just, to me, so far, he's played really well. Now, I know he only scored 7 last night, but still, I think all around his game, it looks better. So, I would say, no, I'm not the one that says that I'm going to be all in on starting Nassir Little, but at the same time, I understand where people are coming from.
Yeah, I was been very open that since he committed to the team and we lost, Joel and Theo after last year. And the whole start was, well, he's got to start. You've got a perennial top 5 NBA draft pick on your team. He should just start automatically. We understand that most times freshmen don't start for Roy Williams unless it's a absolute must. Because Kobe White doesn't have to. The last thing about Kobe, he earned the right to start. It wasn't that we didn't have any
I
other,
agree with that.
Any other veteran point guards. He's earned the right. I look at Nassir, and I've told you this in conversation just between you and I. I like what he has coming off the bench. A guy that can get his own shot. A guy that's going to give you effort. That's going to defend. He got to the rebounds last night. Something he personally challenged himself to was to rebound the ball better than he did against Wofford. He got 7 rebounds last night. I think our fans tend to remember or forget Marvin Williams didn't start a single game for the 05 National Championship team. But he had a starter-like role on the team because he played that many minutes and was a big part of that team's success.
Also, remember that Danny Green was not a starter until Marcus Ginyard got injured on the 09 National Championship team.
Exactly. And so I think you look at a team that when you look at it, in all honesty, the second unit, where are you going to get your scoring? You're not going to expect scoring from Seventh Woods.
No.
Sterling Manley, you never know if you're going to get, you can't always run offense through Sterling. You put Nassir out there with the second unit or someone or even just a mixture of the starters, it makes them harder to defend. As I mentioned, can get to the rim, can get his own shot. I like that coming off the bench. And I'm with you with Garrison. Garrison wouldn't be starting if Roy Williams didn't think he deserved to start. If he thought we were better playing small, I trust we'd probably be playing small.
Right.
So Garrison beefed up put on the weight, and he's continuing to get better as his career goes along. So I wouldn't be surprised maybe later in the season if the change happened, but I'm not on the forefront now to make him a starter. You can't take Cam Johnson now. He's been your best player through 2 games shooting the ball. Kenny Williams is the team's best defender. Nassir can't run the point guard, so you're not going to take Kobe out of the starting lineup. So I think we just need to be patient and let it play its course. I just had a problem with NBA writers calling out Roy Williams for him only playing 18 minutes against Wofford. You go to Roy Williams postgame, he wants to play more, he has to rebound. He rebounded last night, and that's why he had more minutes. So he'll dictate his playing time. And I think as the season goes along, he'll be our quote-unquote 6th starter because he'll play that many minutes coming off the bench.
Well, look, okay, you said he played – how many minutes did you say he played against Wofford? 16?
It was 18, I think, is what.
Okay, 18. Okay. Last night, he played 20. There were only 2 players that played more minutes than him and 1 that played the same amount of minutes as him. Luke May played 26. Kobe White played 21, and Kenny Williams played 20. Both guys that you're questioning as to whether or not you would take them out of the lineup for him played less minutes than he did. So if he shows, again, starter does not mean that do people think there's a certain limit that you have to play as a starter? Do you think it's guaranteed that if you're a starter, you got to play 20 minutes? No, whoever's playing better on that night will get the most amount of minutes. And here's the other thing. Right now, we're playing games against Wofford and Elon. Let's see when we match up against a power conference opponent, what they end up, how the minutes are distributed. And now this is one thing that I'll give these people that they're saying. And you mentioned it. I don't think that they're saying that Garrison's not talented enough to start. They're just saying that Nassir is more talented. And again, talent-wise, we were discussing this before we got, started talking on the podcast. Talent-wise, Nassir is probably the best player on this team. But if you're telling me that right now, the best scorer on this team is Nassir Little. If you think that right now he's a better all-around player at the moment than Luke May or Cameron Johnson, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you because it's simply not true. He's got the upside. Trust me. Upside-wise, easily the most talented player on this team. Like, he has the brightest future out of anybody. Most of the other guys, you would say, okay, Luke May might make an NBA roster just because of his scrappiness. Cameron Johnson might make an NBA roster because he can shoot the three. That's pretty much the only reasons they're going to make rosters.
Right.
Nassir Little's an all-around talent. So, yes, that will come to fruition for him. It's just, and again, when you talk about, later on in the year, the move being made, yeah, that I could see that definitely happening. But I don't know. These people that are hammering it home that, if Roy doesn't start him, they're going to lose recruits. I mean, really?
Right.
Do you actually think that's going to happen? And here's my thing. I trust what Roy Williams does. Who am I to question him? And don't tell me, well, you question what Larry Fedora does. Has he not earned the right to be questioned?
Exactly.
I mean, Roy Williams got 3 national championships. Larry Fedora has 1 ACC championship appearance. Big difference.
Exactly. And I think that's the thing. And I hope the fans and even the writers will just be patient with it. Let it play its course. If Roy Williams feels starting him is best for North Carolina, at some point he'll start. So with that said, I threw that on you. What did you think we were going to have as our discussion topic other than the Nassir Little stuff?
But do we want to bring this up now, or do we want to keep this for next week or the next show? I don't know how we're doing this. Are we going MFG podcast style 2 times, 3 times a week?
As of right now, depends on my work schedule, your schedule. Right now, 1 to 2 at the max. So
I'm debating here because this beef is fresh. But at the same time,
I say let's beef.
Let's do it. Okay, so I thought you were going to go with the scrap that you got in yesterday on Twitter as to whether or not Nassir Little would return.
Return to Chapel Hill.
I'll preface this because if you talk, you're going to immediately try to back up your point. So I'm going to go as the neutral party in this. Beforehand, you said yesterday, and I quote, "It's not that crazy to think that Nassir Little could come back for his sophomore year." The Twitter handling of this tweet was not well. Not a good one at all. Many Tar Heel fans freaked. There were many different names called. And now, sir, you have to explain yourself on the first edition of the podcast. We're coming right out of the gate and criticizing the host. Bring it.
Well, I was just sitting there thinking, the announcers who I had turned down low, but they pretty much have come to the conclusion he's one and done. No way in hell he comes back. He's going to the NBA to become a millionaire. I think about the last time Roy Williams had a talent like him on campus, Harrison Barnes, #1 recruit in high school. Not a overwhelming or underwhelming freshman season. Just didn't think his game was NBA ready. Came back. I look at Nassir Little. Let's say he doesn't develop to where he's not a lottery pick for some ungodly reason, or he's just not happy where his game is. He might decide to come back. You also look at Kenny Williams, Cameron Johnson, Luke May are all seniors. They will be gone next year. He returns. There is no will he start or whatnot. It basically becomes his team. Let's say we lose in the NCAA tournament in a heartbreaking fashion. This man appears to be a guy that wants to win and win big here. Maybe a devastating loss in the NCAA tournament, or we get swept by, for some guy, Duke beats us twice. That motivates him to come back to Chapel Hill. So I think while it may be highly unlikely, I'm under the belief that if he came back, I wouldn't be overly surprised because he might enjoy college. He might love playing for Roy Williams. Tyler Hansbrough stayed for 4 years, and he was for 4 years an All-American. Obviously, one of the best player in college basketball for 4 years. So I don't think we need to just jump to the conclusions that him and Kobe White, because they were McDonald's All-Americans and have been listed on NBA mocks in November, that they are one and dones, and this is how we're going to start running our program from the foreseeable future.
Okay, well, you mentioned Tyler Hansbrough, and so let me tell you where there's a difference there. During that time period, if you went to college, which I believe by that point when he committed, you could still enter the NBA draft out of high school, right? That was the last year, was his freshman year.
When he committed, yes.
Yes. So when you went to college, you pretty much had the mindset that you were there for 4 years, even at Duke. Because remember, during that time, J.J. Redick was there. So you knew going in, okay, I'm here for 3 to 4 years for the most part. That was kind of the mindset you took. Today's college basketball is a lot different. One and done is the most popular thing to do, especially for guys that are that highly rated in recruiting classes, which is where Nassir Little is at. Now, you do bring up a solid point. You kind of wonder what his mindset is. And is it, okay, I'm here to play for this year and move on. I'm going to have some fun with it. I want to win some games. I want to win a national championship if possible. But ultimately, my goal is to get to the NBA level. Or is his mindset, I want to get to the NBA level, but I also want to do some damage at the college level. I want to make a Final Four. That's going to depend on what his decision ultimately ends up being. In my mind, the thing that's going to be hard for him to pass up is the fact that at this point, and I really don't see this turning itself around, at this point, one would guess that he is almost a surefire top 5 pick, because scouts love everything about his game. I mean, he's got the inside-out game. He has the ability to rebound. He looks like a solid enough defender. Guy hustles. He's going to be a popular name come draft time. If you're in the top 5, more than likely in a lot of people's mocks before the season starts, top 3.
Right.
Which, you buy into the narrative that that all 3 Duke freshmen are going 1, 2, 3 in the draft. You buy that crap, because I don't buy it. I mean, if he's up in that area, that's a lot of money to pass up, man. That's a lot. And, I don't think he would pass that up. It's nothing against Nassir Little, and I don't blame him at all for going to the NBA. Hell, if someone's handed me that big of a paycheck, I'm going to tell Roy, hey, man, thanks. I love you, coach. I'll come back and play some pickup games every summer with the guys. I got to go to the NBA. So ultimately, I would say this. There is always a small chance, just because of the guy you mentioned in Harrison Barnes. Although when Harrison Barnes, if he would have came out after his freshman season, I don't think he would be as high on the mock boards as they are currently predicting Nassir. But I would be extremely shocked. Let me say that. So I'm kind of with these people. But at the same time, I understand where you're coming from. Let's just say that.
Okay.
Any responses?
No, I mean, you back up the point from the Twitter people that called me out. And I knew when I sent that tweet, there was going to be some of those people that were going to be like, yep, you're an idiot.
I can't believe that, no offense, I can't believe that tweet, out of all the ones that you've tweeted about Carolina basketball, got the most run. I thought the Roy Williams GOAT would get more run. That got no run. Like, we thought that would get run.
I think they've come to know with me. I've made up my mind.
No, they've come to know that Roy Williams is actually the guy.
And maybe they've wised up that I'm not going to back down from that opinion.
Dude, we are really losing some listeners here. Podcast 1, baby. We're bringing it.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure I'll tweet something out next week, a couple weeks, Duke game, whatever. That's going to tick off some people. Or I might write something that people are going to get angry about, and that's okay. But I've got my opinions, and I think my opinions are have some factual belief or evidence to them. And I'm not, I think I know my stuff enough to tweet out what I tweet and write, when I write and say what I say. So we'll move on from that. That could be an ongoing thing we discuss as we track his progression during the season. Once we play tougher competition, it could be more evident. Okay, maybe he's not where he wants to be as a 19-year-old player.
Right.
So we'll transition into the Stanford game. Stanford will be the first time Carolina's played at home in this young 2018-19 season. As you mentioned earlier, we played Stanford last year at Palo Alto, a 96-72 win that was pretty much, for all intents and purposes, over at halftime. You look at the Stanford team, didn't make the tournament last year. They're coached by Gerard Haas, who, of course, played for Roy Williams at Kansas, coached with him at Kansas, came with him to Carolina before getting his head coaching career started at UAB. That's the whole purpose we're playing Stanford, is just for those two guys to compete against each other and get really exposure for the Stanford program as he tries to build that thing back to where it was in the early 2000s. You look at the team, the first thing that you talk about with Stanford, they lost their best player. And as you mentioned, Reed Travis, who wasn't happy with the success he was having in Stanford, decided to transfer to play for John Calipari at the University of Kentucky. Many people thought with the young incoming freshman talent, the returning sophomore talent, that solidified Kentucky's national championship contender like that. I watched Kentucky play for 20 minutes Tuesday night. Didn't go very well, and they struggled last night with Southern Illinois. So, not the best to start in Lexington.
Let's take a minute to laugh at that.
Not that I care. I hate their program.
That's hilarious.
For multiple reasons, and then some personal reasons for raging for that university.
We're not talking about that. So, don't even get into that.
I look at this Stanford team. They return some guys that aren't bad. I mean, only 2 double-digit scores, so there's not a lot of returning scoring on this team. They won their first 2 games. They actually won at UNC Wilmington the other night, who, as we all know, coached by C.B. McGrath, who also played for Roy Williams at Kansas, coached them at Kansas and at Carolina before going to Wilmington to take over after Kevin Keats left for NC State. So it was kind of neat that Stanford's kind of, Gerard Haas is getting to catch up with some of the former guys he's coached and played with.
Oh, yeah.
For me, I look at this game as the toughest competition Carolina will have played, but a game that if Carolina plays half as good as they are expected or they're capable of playing, the Heels should win easily. Your early thoughts going into the Stanford game?
Well, just from looking at their first 2 games, it seems like KZ Okapala is going to be their best player. That's their guy. He so far is averaging 26 points a game, had 23 the other night against UNCW, 29 in the opener. And I mean, I don't know if he's considered their small forward or their power forward, because both him and Oscar Da Silva are listed as 6'9" players. I think Da Silva's a little bit heavier, so he's probably their interior player. But I mean, a guy that's scoring at that kind of clip, a little bit dangerous. So you wonder who's going to be on him. I would say more than likely Kenny Williams. And then their backcourt, they have 2 solid guys back there as well. In, let's see, Dejon Davis and Cormac Ryan. What a name that is right there. So, I mean, they've got some pieces, I think. One of the other things that I notice about them is they do not have, they're not a team that assist on many of their baskets. They look like a lot, they have to create a lot of their own shots, which is interesting. In today's college basketball, that's not something you see a lot because college basketball has become somewhat similar to the NBA game in, where you play a lot of off ball. I mean, you've got to do a lot of stuff off ball, and when you get that ball, it's usually catch and shoot. So, we've seen that a lot with our guys, and Stanford a little bit different. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle it. I expect that, look, this is a team that we are better than. Let's be plain and simple. The environment inside the Smith Center, I think, should be pretty good. I don't see why it wouldn't be pretty good. There's no break going on right now. Granted, it's a Monday night, but I think, look, it's the home opener. People will be excited. I think the place will be pretty close to sold out, if not sold out. So I think, they'll be able to flex their muscle a little bit. Trust me, Roy Williams has a loss to Gerard Haas that's probably still in the back of his mind. And remember, that took place at the Smith Center.
That was actually in UAB, but...
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was a road game. We actually, played that was actually a scheduled home and home.
I'm thinking of the Belmont loss.
The Belmont loss.
That's the one I'm thinking of.
I think for I'm not going to be able to attend the game. I know you're not.
Right,
it's the first regular season game that matters on the newly named Roy Williams Court. So there's that's a historic event for that arena.
Right,
right. It doesn't draw the name like when they opened the Smith Center, when they opened with Duke. I know it's not on that level, but it's the first time playing for the Hall of Famer with his name on the floor.
Right.
And so I'm with you. I think, the students, and I think a good number of fans, with it being the home opener and this team top 10 preseason, there's a lot of Final Four expectations. The fans will show up and show out and have a pretty good environment in the Smith Center. We're not. I know with you, when you do football, you have a line that you pick on. With basketball,
they have lines in basketball, and it makes no sense.
We're not going to bet on that because basketball.
It's so early in the year.
Yeah.
Like, why would you bet on that? You don't know a lot about these teams. Yeah.
So I think what I'll do is I'm going to ask you your winner of the game and the player that when we talk about the game afterwards is the guy we're talking about.
Oh, man, that's a good idea. I think I'm going to steal that from you for my podcast, and then I'm going to call it my own idea. I'm just kidding, of course. But, yeah, the winner of the game, clearly, I think, will be us. I think it's going to be – I'm not going to say it'll be similar to Wofford. I feel like it'll be a little more comfortable throughout the game, kind of in that 8 to 11-point range at most times, and then maybe pull away late. And, the player of the game for me – I think Luke May is going to have a fantastic game. I think he's going to do work. I mean, I just told you there's, inside their biggest, their guy that's going to start at power forward at least is going to measure in at 6'9" and maybe 225.
Right.
That's where Luke May can do his work. And then taking that guy away from the basket, Luke May I think has a big night. And then also keep an eye on some of those guys off the bench, I think, to sneak up and have a good night. I'll tell you one that may have a good night that might surprise people. I think maybe Brandon Robinson comes out and surprises people in the home opener.
Yeah, I'm going to take Carolina to win the game. As we they're the more talented, more gifted team.
Right.
I think they'll be ready to play in front of the home crowd for the first time. I think the guy that when I write my recap and when I talk to you in preparation for the podcast on the recap of this game, I'm going to go with the guy who's been the best player through the first two games, in Cameron Johnson. He's shooting the ball at a very efficient clip. He's getting to the boards, defending about as good as you can expect a guy like Cameron Johnson to defend. And I think he'll be the guy, coming out of the game. I think, if we're going to keep our eye on somebody else, I think this could be a good game for Kenny to get his shot. He's back at home in his home gym, and that's important for these guys and their psyche.
Right.
At the end of the day, I think Carolina's too good. Stanford's kind of rebuilding, and I think Gerard Haas is going to do a good job there if they give him time. So, but yeah, at the end of the night, I think Carolina improves to 3-0. And their next, as their season, they turn around and play again on Friday, so a very quick start to their season. But yeah, Carolina 3-0. So we'll close things down. The game will start at 7. It'll be broadcasted on ESPN2, I believe. I don't know who's on the call for that. Probably some random crew because it's a it's a non-conference game.
Yeah, who knows?
And they'll probably be talking about the 3 freshmen from Duke the whole time anyway. So
they mentioned him on the program last night a couple of times. I was like, you're kidding, right? Like, this is a Carolina game. Like,
right.
Why are we worried about this team? And by the way, folks, they played 1 game. I saw Tar Heel fans that were calling the season finito. It's 1 game.
Right.
I'm gonna yell because it's unbelievable the amount of people that think, the season is over. They're already that good. They played 1 game, folks. College basketball is a 40-game season.
Right.
It's not like college football where it's at max 14. 40 games. Long way to go.
Yep. As you all know, Jones Angel will be on the call starting with pregame at 6, and then he'll be joined by Eric Montross at 7 to call the game. You got anything else left to say, or are we ready to wrap this down?
No, I think we're ready to go, man.
All right. That's going to do it for the first edition of the Roy's Boys Blog Podcast. We'll be with you all the way until the final game of the season. So make sure to check us out. I'll have it uploaded on all sorts of media outlets very soon. Go Tar Heels.